As Ellison departs Congress, Omar chases another first file. In this June 5, 2018, file photo, State Rep. Ilhan Omar, the first Somali American elected to a state legislature, files to run for the 5th District congressional seat that U.S. Representative Keith Ellison is vacating to run for Minnesota Attorney General, at the Minnesota Secretary of State's office in St. Paul, Min. The race has pitted Omar, a rising star in the Democratic Party, against older, more established Democrats, echoing similar races nationwide as a younger generation heads to Washington. Lacey Young, Minnesota Public Radio via AP, file, Columbia Heights, Min. AP, in a coffee shop at the edge of a working-class Minneapolis suburb, not far from the high school Ilhan Omar attended in the years after she immigrated to the U.S., some 24 people crowded around a table to hear her make the case for sending her to Congress. "There is a clear and dangerous crossroads to where our country finds itself," Omar told the group. "You can see the politics of fear and scarcity that's led us to the current administration we have." Rep. Keith Ellison's decision to leave Congress to run for Attorney General back home in Minnesota set off a scramble for his Minneapolis area congressional seat, which has been a Democratic lock for more than half a century. It's a race with echoes of the recent primary upset in New York, in which Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a 28-year-old self-described Democratic socialist, defeated one of the most powerful House Democrats. Though the Minnesota race has no incumbent, Omar is hoping to harness the energy that Ocasio-Cortez tapped to defeat 5 other candidates in the August 14 primary, including the state's first Latina lawmaker, State Sen. Patricia Torres Ray, and Margaret Anderson Kelleher, a former state House Speaker who spent a decade as a power broker in Minnesota politics. Omar broke into elected office by unseating a 22-term Democratic incumbent in 2016 while en route to becoming the nation's first Somali-American state lawmaker. With 1 term under her belt in the Minnesota House, she's touting her background. "I myself would have been part of the travel ban," she says, to persuade voters that for her, the fight against President Donald Trump would be personal. Her message will be tested against Kelleher, who has played up her political battles with then-Republican Gov. Tim Pollandi is proof that she, too, would make an effective Trump foil. Torres Ray, who emigrated from Colombia more than 30 years ago, says she's also well-suited to stand up to the president's policies, pointing to her tenure in state senate and experience on immigration issues. She has called Trump's immigration policies inhumane, and was arrested in June along with several other protesters who locked themselves in cages to protest the administration's family separation immigration policy, which Trump lifted in the face of widespread criticism. The Minneapolis area has been trending more liberal since long before Trump, said Brian Melendez, a former chairman of the state's Democratic Farmer Labor Party. He noted Ellison's 2006 victory to become the first Muslim elected to Congress, as well as a raft of very liberal candidates who have won city offices in Omar's 2016 primary victory. Like many other Democratic primaries around the country, the race for Ellison's House seat is testing what kind of political experience matters most for Democratic voters who hope to rein in the Trump administration, which has emerged as the central focus in the race. Devin Stewart, 25, said he supports Omar but worries about her limited experience. "I'm not the kind of person who thinks experience makes or breaks a candidate, but I'd prefer her to have another term or 2 under her belt," he said. Freshman state lawmakers in the minority, as Democrats are in Minnesota, have little chance to rack up accomplishments. Omar cited funding she's netted for projects in her district, including money for a Somali museum and $5 million to help respond to a 2017 measles outbreak that largely affected the Somali community. But both Omar and Torres Ray face a formidable rival in Kelleher. Just the second woman to serve as Minnesota's House Speaker, Kelleher has been largely out of the public eye for 8 years. She's currently head of a nonprofit that promotes technology education, training and jobs. Since entering the race, Kelleher has worked to remind voters of her skirmishes with Polandi. During a visit to a Minneapolis senior living home, she drew nods of recollection from a group of about 50 people when she talked about overcoming a Polandi veto to pass a gas tax hike to fund infrastructure improvements after the deadly 2007 collapse of the Interstate 35 West Bridge in Minneapolis. She discounted any parallel between her congressional race and Ocasio-Cortez's victory in New York over longtime Rep. Joe Crowley in an interview afterward. Joe Crowley was an out-of-touch incumbent. "This is an open seat," she said. "There's a lot of energy in this race, and there's going to be over 100,000 people who vote and only 25,000 people voted there. The heart of the race," she said, "is going to be who is most effective standing up to the Trump administration right now, and who can deliver on behalf of the issues." Omar, who escaped Somalia as a child and grew up in a Kenya refugee camp before settling in the U.S., said she's ready to do that. "For so long, so many of us felt you needed permission to get involved politically and that you needed an invitation," Omar said. "I think we are at a moment that we've been building up that's part of a movement that says if you want things done, you have to do them yourself, ______. Follow Yusuf Ardad on Twitter, https://twitter.com/yusufardad. Copyright 2018 The Associated Press. All rights reserved. This material may not be published, broadcast, written or redistributed.